Hello and good evening, and welcome everyone to the UK Crime Book Club Pub Quiz. Just not in a pub. No, this week broadcasting live from the after show party at the Oscars. Everyone's gone though, so I can't show you any celebrities other than the two wonderful authors either side of me. Joining me today, we've got MK Farrar, aka Marissa Farrar, and Matt Johnson, who will be pitting their wits against each other and you at home in order to win nothing but your admiration or contempt, whichever they deem to be more valuable. First up, I'd like to introduce you to the author of the D.I. Erica Swift and the Detective Ryan Chase series. You may know as MK Farrar, but tonight, Matthew, she's going to be Marissa, because I don't want to sound like I'm addressing a new town in Buckinghamshire. Marissa, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Ben. I'm good. Thank you.
Excellent stuff. Are you looking forward to tonight? Good answer.
With some trepidation.
With some trepidation. No, it's honestly, it's the whole point of this quiz today is to have a nice, relaxed time. We don't take it very seriously. The questions, I think, this week, I've said this before, are some of the easiest questions we've had on the quiz. I've tried to make it nice and accessible for everyone, because sometimes I get accused of making it a bit too out there. And I know one of my greatest detractors, Donna Morfitt, is in the chat already saying hello. Hi, Donna. Don't worry, there's no rounds where you're going to be scratching your head tonight, Donna. I've tried to keep it simple. Because I'm simple. And up against Marissa tonight is Matt Johnson, author of Crow 27 and the Robert Finley series, and collector of hats. Matt, welcome. Lovely to see you, but why no hat?
I don't know, really. I think it must have started when I was 18 and I went into a career where we had to wear hats, because obviously as a schoolboy you don't wear hats at all. But ever since that life, all the professional career life, you wore a hat of some kind. So hats became sort of an accepted part of the way I dressed, and I started acquiring a taste for them. So I started with like military hats of various things I collected, and then it just grew to things like an akubra, a kepi.
Super. And you've not got a lucky quizzing hat, then? I'm taking it.
Oh, no. Sadly, I mean, I've moved house a couple of times since acquiring the bulk of the collection, and most of them sit in storage in a cupboard.
Do you know what? I think that happens to a lot. When you start collecting something, it's out, and then you move house. My attic is testament to this at the moment. We've been here 3.5 years, and my attic is full of lots of things that I'd love to see, but haven't in a long time. I think everyone's got those collections that disappear, and I'll get them out. I'll spend a day in the attic sorting that out. I'm sure you've said the same yourself there, Matt, and it just doesn't happen, does it, unfortunately? Marissa, any collections of your own?
Lots of books.
Which is a very good answer for a group like this. Yeah. Is it mainly crime books on your collection, or are we?
No, I read pretty much anything, like any genre. So I'll read.
What are you into at the moment? What's the current?
I read quite a lot of psychological thrillers.
Okay.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense, really.
Yeah. That's probably my go-to genre. But I do quite like. Yeah, I'll read anything pretty much.
Super stuff. I mean, that's a wonderful sort of segue into our opening round, which, being a crime book club group, is all about books. Yes, round one, as ever, folks, is the books round. I should give everyone the full rules in case there's people who haven't been to the quiz before. We've got 5 rounds of 5 questions. There's a couple of questions with some bonus points, so I think we're on about 28 points is your maximum this week. At the end of every round, we'll go through the answers with my guests here tonight, see what they've got and what you've got home. No shouting out in the chat or on screen, please. Just write your answers down. You're marking your own. There's no cheating because we're also honest and genuine, and there's no money at stake. So why would you cheat anyway? It's all for a bit of fun. So with that in mind, shall we begin with round one? We shall. Right, question number 1. Which festival is set to hold the first Eurovision contest for books? Been in the news lately. So question number 1 again, which festival is set to hold the first Eurovision contest for books? And if you're struggling, because it's the first question, because I'm feeling generous, think about festivals that might be for books.
Calculated guess there.
If it's an educated guess, it's probably the right guess. Question 2. Which former MP suffered an embarrassing leak of his WhatsApp messages whilst preparing to write a book recently?
I didn't know he was preparing to write a book. So
Ah,
that's why the journalist left him, is that right?
Yes, that's why this was out there. So, I mean, Matt, if you get this wrong now, you seem very confident on this one. So let's hope you've got that one right. Just to remind everyone, question 2 again. Which former MP suffered an embarrassing leak of his WhatsApp messages whilst preparing to write a
I
book?
don't actually think he's a former MP, actually. He's still an MP.
Is he still an MP? Soon to be former MP. Then I thought he'd resigned. Is
He
he
can't
not
be
resigned?
judged. He can't be judged. You never know. He could come back strong.
Let's see. Quick. So when we get to the answers, I'll have that ready to go.
He's an independent, I think.
Yes, it might be right, actually.
Well,
Question number 3. And this one, for those of you who've read the newsletter, might be an easy answer for you. In the title of Michelle Kidd's new novel, how many years have been buried? If anyone needs a clue, it's a number. So in the title of Michelle Kidd's new novel, how many years have been buried? And as it is a number, that does narrow it down from 0 to infinity, which is, I think that's quite a nice window to work through there. It's question 3 again. In the title of Michelle Kidd's new novel, how many years have been buried? Question number 4. Jace Joyce celebrated World Book Day this year by publishing his first 2 books. But what is unique about Jace? I know, I said this was like, I just said, this is one of the easier quizzes. And I'm sitting here listening to what I'm saying, and I'm going, no, Ben, you lied.
This is Jace Joyce, not James Joyce.
Jace Joyce, yes, not James Joyce. No, I think he was published a little bit before this year's World Book Day. Yes, Jace Joyce. He celebrated World Book Day this year by publishing his first 2 books. But what is unique about Jace? And finally, question number 5. The new novel from Kath Middleton, out now, of course, is called Old What? Hi, Patsy. Welcome to the show. Of course, if you're joining us a little bit late tonight, you can always go back to the start of the stream and just watch along. We won't be live, but you can still play along. I am going to pop the questions into the chat if anyone doesn't want to do that and just wants to catch up. He says he's going to pop it into the chat, but he's not actually popped open a window on this one to do it. He will do it. Comment. There we go. There's the questions for everyone. Right then. Let's see how confident everyone's feeling after that first round. Before we get to the answers, of course, because there's nothing like misplaced confidence, I find. Marissa, you were less than confident going into the quiz. You said in your questionnaire that you did for me that you were a terrible quizzer. Has that opinion changed?
No. I might have got a couple.
Excellent. Well, that's better than terrible. And Matt, how about you? Are you competitive by nature today?
I am, but I have the good fortune to be married to somebody who can even answer the brown cheese questions on Trivial Pursuit. Now, before her, I had never met anybody who could answer the brown cheese questions. Excuse me.
That's right. Somebody's fine. Did you know you're on the UK Crime Book Club Pub Quiz, Matt? Did you know?
This is what happens when you rush home.
We should have, I work in TV. I should have known to do the whole make sure your phones are on silent beforehand. So that's my fault, that one there. Now, Matt, you say you're competitive by nature, but I have heard that you once took a little bit of a beating of a different sort and when playing rugby. Care to tell us that story?
Yeah, I was 17, Pinner County Grammar School, Northwest London, same school that Simon Le Bon and Elton John went to. And there's another story. Sitting in, I think it was a physics class one afternoon, and our PE teacher, a chap called Andy Robinson, he was playing scrum half at the time for London Wasps. He came in and he said, "Right, boys, we're short. We need some volunteers to make up the numbers for the team. And goes, whoa, yes, please, sir, we'll come and play. So that afternoon, he piled us into the school minibus, took us up to the Wasps ground. We were issued with the beautiful black and gold kit, and we turned out, and this really was a question of boys against men. And us schoolboy rugby players had a very, very sobering introduction into what men's rugby is all about. And it's a little bit more vigorous than we were prepared for.
It does sound like every experience I've ever had of playing rugby, but I mean, mine was against my own peers, so I think I was just slightly lacking in the abilities.
We were seriously outclassed, and we were hammered. And about a fortnight later, when Mr. Robinson came back into class and asked for volunteers, not a single hand went up.
Understandably so. So, Marissa, I've got a little bit of a tactic here for you. If you do want to win today, I'm suggesting physical intimidation is the way forward to put Matt off his stride.
I'm not sure I'm terribly physically intimidating.
I think he'll be cowering. Marissa, you've said that your perfect quiz partner would be your mum. Have you got a little pop-up window on Zoom on the side, just feeding you the answers?
I should have, shouldn't I? Yeah. I'm being honest and actually not cheating for once.
What is it about your mum that makes her a great quizzer then?
She's just she likes quizzes, so yeah, she goes to a lot of them, and whereas I tend to avoid them normally. So yeah, she's got good general knowledge, and yeah,
excellent.
So and we have a laugh as well. So
exactly. Well, and that is the most important thing, is having a laugh. I keep reminding everyone who comes on this quiz that's what it's mostly about, having a laugh. Shall we have a look at the answers and see if we've rattled any out in the first round?
Okay.
Yeah. Question number 1 then. The festival where they're doing a Eurovision contest for books. Did anyone happen to have a guess at where that might be?
I guess Harrogate.
No, it's the other H, Hay on Y.
That's what I said, Hay.
Oh, sorry, I misheard. Yeah, Hay on Y. Yes, people are being asked to submit their favourite fiction from any of the 37 eligible countries. It can be in any genre, but it must have been published since 1956 when Eurovision Song Contest began. And then it can be...
The clue was when you said book as opposed to crime fiction book, Ben.
Very true. Very true. Kept it open, yep.
I was going to go for Theakston's Harrogate, but then I recognised you didn't say crime.
I kept it. Yeah, it kept it open indeed. Yes. Question number 2, and Matt did seem confident on this one, but just in case he was wrong, we'll check anyway. The messages leaked from an MP's WhatsApp. The MP, who is an MP, I've just checked, is
Matt Hancock.
Mr. Matt. I've been in the jungle, Hancock. Yes. The messages were leaked by journalist, excuse me, Isabella Oakeshott, who had been given access to them whilst helping Hancock write his pandemic diaries. Her belief was that it was in the public interest to know what happened. His point of view is, well, you signed an NDA, and we should just let them fight. There are no winners in that fight. There are only losers, and that's the way it should be.
Of course, an NDA keeps you perfectly safe, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like a wonderful writer's room, that one. Question number 3. How many years were buried in Michelle Kidd's Thriller's title? Did anyone know?
20.
Indeed, yes, 20.
I went for 99.
Oh, just a little out.
It's a good number for a body to be buried, you see.
It is. It's a long time. Yeah, there wouldn't be much left by that point. You'd just be looking at the bones. Same 20, really, I would guess. 20, yes, out on March the 2nd. It's a revised version of Hangman's End. And it sees Detective Jack McIntosh investigating a body found in a case in the River Thames. Question 4, Jace Joyce. What was unique about Jace Joyce, who saw books published? Did we say? Yeah, his first 2 books published on World Book Day this year. Anyone know?
I had a guess.
Yeah, go for it.
He's dead.
No.
I guess he was blind.
I mean, it's a really tragic story for you because he's only 4. Yes, Jace is only 4. The author from Sutton Coldfield published Jace's Sweet Tooth and A Beach with No Sea. He started writing at the age of 3 and has a chance of entering the Guinness Book of Records as the youngest person ever to publish a book and a series simultaneously. I'm going to hire him to finish my book off because he's doing much better than me. 4 years old. Fantastic stuff. And finally, Old What is the title of the new Kath Middleton novel.
Spice.
Smells good, but it's not right. Marissa, did you have a guess?
I guessed farm, but I had no idea.
You've read the blurb. No, it's Old Haunts. It tells the story of 83-year-old farmer David Barlow, who, after being told he's dying, decides to tell the dark history of Crown Farm, where he lives. That's round one over and done with, guys. You're a fifth of the way there. We will, of course, be talking to you both about your books as we go on. And what a better way to do that with a themed round for each of you. Yes, I've done a round loosely based around your books. And when I say loosely, I mean loosely. First up, Matt, with a round that I imaginatively titled Crow 27. Yes, Crow 27. This is a round with 5 questions on crows. Yep, that bloody simple. 5 questions on crows, ladies and gentlemen, or things loosely related to crows. Question number 1. What is the name of the 4th book in George R.R. Martin's Song of Fire and Ice series, popularised by the TV show Game of Thrones? Question 1 again. What is the name of the 4th book in George R.R. Martin's Song of Fire and Ice series, popularised further by the TV show Game of Thrones? Question number 2. Name the San Francisco band formed in 1991 who had hits with Mr. Jones, American Girls and Big Yellow Taxi. Question 2 again. Name the San Francisco band formed in 1991 who had hits with Mr. Jones, American Girls and Big Yellow Taxi. Remember, the round is themed around crows. Question number 3. What is the name of the structure on the upper part of the main mast of a ship used as a lookout point? Question 3 again. What is the name of the structure on the upper part of the main mast of a ship used as a lookout point? Question number 4. And it's a question that everyone in this group should get. What is the name given to a group of crows? The amount of puns that appear in this group about that. Sorry, it's an automatic ejection from the group if you get this one wrong. Question 4. What is the name given to a group of crows? And finally, which actor was fatally shot whilst filming the part of Eric Draven in the film The Crow? So which actor was fatally shot whilst filming the part of Eric Draven in the film The Crow? Now, on the animal theme, Marissa, I believe your studies could have taken you in a very different direction. Certainly not what you would expect from a crime writer as such. So what was it you were studying?
I did a zoology degree.
A zoology degree. And so what does that entail exactly? What was the plan behind that? Was there a plan?
Yeah, well, when I was growing up, I knew that I either wanted to be a vet or I wanted to be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I'll do my zoology degree, see how I feel at the end of that. I can either use it to get to veterinary school or else, I can leave it behind and take the writing seriously. And I basically spent the entire degree just writing stories and sending them off. So I got to the end and thought, no, I think the writing is where I want to be. So that's obviously what I ended up doing.
Excellent stuff. And do you still have any sort of involvement in animals or zoology or anything like that, or is it something that's just?
I've got a couple of cats and a dog. I don't know if that counts.
No. And Matt, you once ran an animal rescue shelter yourself, didn't you? So what did that entail?
Well, that was immediately post-retirement from the police. At the time, it was going to be my sort of like leaving the police retirement. We were running a boarding kennels and cattery, and we discovered that this kennels, when we took it over, had a contract with the local authority to take in all the strays. And when the strays started arriving, we started putting them in. we'd been led to believe by the previous owners that at a certain time in the week, one of the national animal charities would come and collect them, take them off for rehoming. And when that day came and nobody turned up, we started asking the staff. I said, isn't somebody supposed to come and collect these? And we discovered we'd been told a fib, that the what actually happens is we were supposed to take them to the vet and have them put to sleep. And that's what our predecessors had done. And we weren't happy at all about that. So we rapidly, and over the course of the next few weeks, built up a network of contacts with different charities from around the country who could assist us with rehoming lost cats and dogs, or unclaimed cats and dogs, or strays that were never claimed, that kind of thing. A few hand-ins as well. But of course, there's always a time delay, from when the animal comes in to when it can be legally transferred over into our ownership to enable us to rehome it. And so we found that we were using a significant part of our boarding facility as an animal rescue. And so it continued. And over the course of the next 10 years, I think we rehomed about 4,000 animals.
Wow.
Good for you. Mine are all rescue animals as well. So.
Yeah, but so much better than having them put to sleep. I mean, these were perfectly healthy animals that were just going to be taken off the vets and put to sleep simply because nobody could make the effort to try and find homes for them. And so we said, right, well, we're not having that. And we're going to see what we could do. I mean, you couldn't in every single case. Sometimes you get the old animal in that was dangerous. But vast majority, we found homes for them.
Super stuff, excellent. And it's always a concern that you see from readers saying, "Oh, I don't like reading books where there's animals that are getting hurt, especially in crime books." I'm going to say, listening to these two guys here, I think you're pretty safe buying a book from either from Marissa and Matt. You'll be fine, guys.
Never kill the dog.
You don't cross them. These guys aren't crossing them. So if that's a worry for you, you're safe. You're very safe. Right, shall we have a look at the answers then, folks? Question number 1, the George R.R. Martin book, the fourth in the Song of Fire and Ice, aka Game of Thrones series, was A Feast for Crows. Yeah. Question 2, Marissa, looking at your musical taste that you mentioned to me, I believe you're in the right era for this one. Some of the stuff you're into, your grunge and everything, West Coast of America in the 90s. So did you know who the American band was?
Black Crows.
Oh,
did I get it wrong? What was it?
Counting Crows.
Counting Crows.
I was going for the old Crow Medicine Show.
No. Counting Crows.
Of course.
Yeah, Counting Crows. Black Crows was one of the other ones I looked at. I hadn't heard of the old Crow Medicine Show, so I did not look at them as a possible answer. Question 3. Top of the mast is the
Crow's
Nest. Yes, the Crow's Nest. And a group of crows, number 4, is a
Murder of Crows.
Murder of Crows. And did anyone get the actor who died filming The Crow?
Brandon. I couldn't think of his name.
Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee, son of Bruce Lee, of course, who also died young, which gave further credence to the idea that came out at the time when Bruce Lee died, that the Lee family were in some way victims of a curse placed on him by a witch. It was one of the suggestions at the time as his death, and resurfaced obviously when his son died young, accidentally shot. A bullet had been left in a gun that shouldn't have been, and a blank set it off, and he died, unfortunately.
So I get half a point for a first name.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, half a point for a first name.
I need every point I can get.
Matt, as I said, this round is called Crow 27, so it sounds a perfect time for us to talk about Crows 27. Tell us a little bit about it, please, if you will.
Well, Crow 27, it is a book very much inspired by a series of suspicious suicides that occurred at a army training base called Deep Cut in the late 90s and early 2000s, where a number of recruits, 5 of them in total, committed suicide in what can best be described as suspicious circumstances. but where there was a complete breakdown in communication between the Royal Military Police, the Special Investigation Branch, and the police service local to there who were supposed to be investigating it, where both thought the other was carrying out the investigation. It wasn't the police service's finest hour. And if we think that a lot of what's happening in the various police services around the country at the moment is new, it isn't. These kind of mistakes have been made historically for a long time. And I thought there was a bit of a story there to be told. I had this idea. I've been mulling over in my mind for some while, and I was sat at a literary event in Cardiff a few years ago, and I'd done my turn on the stage, and I've sat having a bit of lunch, and a girl came and sat next to me, and she turned out to be a reader of my first book.
Excuse me.
And she said, what are you working on next? And I told her this idea, and she said, well, it's interesting you should say that. She said, because I used to be a captain based at Deep Cut in the army. She said, so if you want to meet and hear some of the stories I can tell you. And then about 6 months later, I was at a slave trafficking conference in the north of England, in Leeds. I got invited there because my second book deals with the subject of slave and sex trafficking. And I was there, and I'd done my talk, and I was there, sat with the audience, listening to other speakers, and I was sat next to a chap, and he asked me the very same question, what I was working on next. And I told him about this story, about this coincidence of sitting next to this girl in Cardiff. And he said, well, that's fascinating. He said, because my name's Paul Kenyon, and I'm a BBC television producer, and I made the bullied to death expose of Deep Cut that we did.
Wow.
Said, do you want to talk?
That's a lot of serendipity going on there, Matt. It almost feels like it was, a story that you were meant to tell.
So I realised then I had to write it, and Paul put me in touch with a girl called Jane McSorley, who was the executive producer of the Panorama programme. She put me in touch with loads of victims. I then spent several months doing interviews, and eventually I realised there was a story to be told, but it couldn't be told through the medium of a non-fiction book, because that would place you open to litigation of some form. And so I decided to set it to a form of fiction. So I told a story of a fictional, based and inspired on the stories that these real accounts that people said to me. And some of them, I tell you, they were pretty harrowing, and it's turned into a harrowing book. I know from the feedback I've been getting on it that people are enjoying reading it, but it's a tough read, and I don't hide that fact. It's when you're talking about the sexual exploitation and abuse and bullying of particularly young women, it's a subject that I know people find uncomfortable to read about, but I think it's something that has to be talked about because it's something that needs to be done about it.
Yeah, and I know as well. You spoke quite openly about how your struggles with PTSD and how that's affected and influenced your writing. So I know that the sort of the mental health aspect of that side of the services and things, obviously weighs heavy on you. Was that something that inspired you into wanting to go down this route as well?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, as a policeman, as a soldier, I wasn't a creative person at all. I wrote reports. That's about it. I didn't read really. I was a once a year reader. Maybe I'd pick up the Leakage Reacher book at the airport when I went on holiday. And that would probably be the only book I'd read in the year. And it was only when I became ill that this creativity was released. And I started writing as therapy. When a counsellor asked me to try a creative writing therapy course. And while I was doing that course, she said to me, "Joe, I really like the way you write. Why don't you ever write a book?" And to be honest with you, I laughed. And I said, "No, it's never going to happen." But then that animal rescue in kennels that I'd left the police to retire, my ex-wife decided that she wanted it, but she didn't want me. So I was put in a position where I had to sort of leave, and she took over the business, and I had to think about what I was going to do. And my brother, God bless him, he said to me one day, he said, "Why don't you write that book that the counsellor was suggesting you should have a go at?" And that's how I got started. So it was all thanks to being ill that I was put in a position where, you had to give it a go.
No, it's an empowering story, Matt, and thank you very much for sharing it. And yes, it certainly does sound like a heavy read, but it's certainly an important read for people to go out and to look at Crow 27.
Yeah. I mean, the feedback I've been getting from it. I mean, I was sad because I sent it to Brew Doherty, my agent, and I'd sent it to Johnny Mercer, the MP, and to my former Met Commissioner, Sir John Stevens, and to Damien Lewis, the true crime writer, to get their feedback on it. And they were all kind enough to give me jacket endorsements for it. But Johnny Mercer said to me, he said, you're going to have terrible trouble getting this published. He said, because it's such a sensitive subject that I don't think your publishers will want to touch it. And he was right. So I was actually put in the end in the position where all the publishers got it. In fact, several editors, commissioning editors, said, "Yeah, we love this. We like this. Is really great story, fantastic." And of course, I thought, "Well, this is marvelous." I've got all these publishers going to say they want to publish. They all were very quiet. Nothing happened. And it took weeks before eventually we were able to tease out these publishers that commercially they decided it wasn't a goer, even though they liked the story. So I remembered the old Kindle Direct program. And I thought, well, if it's not going to get published through the mainstream, I'm going to do it myself. And I'm jolly glad I did.
Excellent stuff. And that is one of the great democratizing parts of self-publishing is that, if there's a story to tell, it can get out there. Right. We did the answers to that round, didn't we? Yes, we did. So we shall now move on to round number 3. Marissa, you probably have an idea what's about to come. Our next round. No, I'm not carrying on the ornithological theme. No, this is a round called Silent Chase. So for those of you worried that we're going to have 5 questions about swifts, you can breathe easily. I didn't want all the twitches descending on the feed and causing us streaming problems. No, I've got 5 questions loosely themed around chases. So are we all ready? Question number 1. Who is the presenter on ITV's The Chase? Sorry, I forgot to put the round 2 questions in the chat. Thanks, Sam, for messaging me. Question 1 again. Who is the presenter of ITV's The Chase? Just to let you know, Matt and Vic Dolan's popped up in the chat saying your book sounds amazing. So that's always nice to hear. Question number 2. The popular schoolyard game, similar to TIG or tag, where the person who is it has to kiss another player, is called what? Question 2. The popular schoolyard game, similar to TIG or tag, where the person who is it has to kiss another player, is called what? Donna, I'm glad you're enjoying this one. Questions, she says, finally questions on my level. There's no bookmanto or anything this month, so you'll be very happy for that. Question number 3. Chase Edmonds was the partner to Jack Bauer in season 3 of which US TV show? Chase Edmonds was the partner to Jack Bauer in season 3 of which US TV show? Question number 4. Chasing Rainbows was a hit for which UK band in November 1996? Question 4. Chasing Rainbows was a hit for which UK band in November 1996? And question 5. What is the name of the Staffordshire area of outstanding natural beauty, famed for its mountain biking, live music performances, as well as sightings of UFOs, werewolves, and even a Bigfoot? Remember, this round is all about chases. You don't get half a point for putting chase in the answer to that last question, by the way, before anyone tries that. Question 5 again. What is the name of the Staffordshire area of outstanding natural beauty, famed for its mountain biking, live music performances, as well as sightings of UFOs, werewolves, and even a Bigfoot? Anyone here ever seen anything out of the ordinary? Anything paranormal? Matt's saying no.
Not seen. No. I've had the odd experience.
Would you care to share, Marissa, or is
so I've got a friend who lives literally that backs onto a graveyard.
Okay.
Her house, and we were around there one evening, like a little group of us, and I was sitting on the sofa. We were playing a card game, and admittedly, we had had a couple of drinks, but don't hold that against me. And I was just sitting there playing and talking and everything, and I literally felt somebody shove me in the back, like to the point where it kind of pushed me forward. And I turned around expecting someone to be there, and there was absolutely nothing there, and everyone just carried on like normal. And I didn't say anything to the person whose house it was, because I didn't want to kind of freak them out about the fact that their house literally backs onto a graveyard. But I would have sworn that somebody pushed me that day.
And has a shovey ghost inside.
Yes.
You're obviously in their favourite seat, you know.
Yes, maybe that was
really what it was. Yeah. Excellent stuff. Right, shall we have a quick look at the answers then for the chase round? So, question number 1. I will put the questions in the chat as well before I get told off. But question number 1, did anyone know the answer to who was the host on ITV's The Chase?
I think it's Bradley.
It is indeed Bradley Walsh. Yes, Bradley Walsh, the host on ITV's The Chase. Question 2. The game similar to Tig, where someone has to kiss.
Kiss chase.
Kiss chase, indeed. Always my least favourite game at school. I don't
think you'd be allowed to play it these days.
Can't do kissing. No, I don't know. I'm sure my daughter would try. She's the story. She's 6. She's got a boyfriend. They're getting married at 25. I've already been told all this, and she comes back. Yeah, we were just kissing on the carpet. It's fine. Yeah, cool. So I'm sure she would lap that game up. Question number 3. Chase Edmonds, the partner of Jack Bauer in season 3 of which US TV series?
24.
Indeed, the greatest show ever made, and the reason why my son is called Jack. I did want to call my daughter Chloe. Wife drew a line there. She drew a line there. Apparently, I couldn't get away with that one. Question 4. The band who were chasing rainbows back in November 1996.
No idea.
It was Shed 7. Shed 7. And finally,
you made that up, Ben.
And finally, question 5. The area of outstanding natural beauty in Staffordshire, where people do see strange things, but that might just be the locals, is...
I'm going for Cannock Chase.
You'd be going for the right answer, Matt. Yes, it is indeed Cannock Chase. Brilliant mountain biking, do a host of live events and concerts in the forest there, but do watch out for the werewolves. So this is, of course, the Silent Chase round. Marissa, let's talk about the Ryan Chase series and Silent Chase in particular, because that's the latest novel. Tell us a little bit about, because this is a series that I think you've only just started in the last couple of years, haven't you? But I think there's been about 3 or 4 books already.
5. So
5.
The fifth and final book is released next week.
Of course,
week, on the 22nd. I think that's in a week, maybe 10 days. And yeah, so 5 books, and it's about a detective based in Bristol, because I'm from the West Country myself. He suffers from OCD. Which makes things challenging, and his partner Mallory, and just discover a whole heap of different crimes across the Bristol area, and eventually solve them.
And you say it's coming to an end. Obviously, you've also written the Erica Swift series. Have you ever contemplated bringing the 2 characters together in any way, or what would be the?
Yeah, I did that. I won't be able to remember the name of it now because I'm terrible with my titles. There's a prequel book, if you like, which is it's actually free on my website if anyone wants to download it. And it's basically when Erica was younger, she worked for Ryan down in Bristol, and they investigate a crime together about a car that crashes and basically is found with blood inside but no victims. And again, I can't say too much about it because I wrote it a really long time ago and I can't remember the details. But yeah, so the 2 of them have come together and have worked there. So I have done that before.
Excellent. And now, importantly, what is the What is your website? So people can go there now. I will put the link in there.
Yeah, mkfarrar.com.
mkfarrar.com, ladies and gentlemen. Free book. Who isn't into free books? Yeah. So, and this is the last. You say this is the last in the Ryan Chase series. So, I mean, that's the first one. I think it was only a couple of years ago you did the first one, wasn't it? So, what's it been like writing a series in that short amount of time and going through that arc so quickly? Because I think a lot of writers sort of live with their characters for a long time, but not necessarily the case maybe for you.
I mean, with my Erica series, I think I'm up to like book 11 or so with her now. But with Ryan, I just felt like he'd done his story arc and the supporting characters had done their story arc, and that I didn't want to keep sort of dragging something out when I felt that they were in good places and it was a good place to leave them. I'm quite a quick writer, so actually 5 books in 2 years isn't too much for stress. I've been writing other stuff in between that. Yeah. But hopefully people enjoy the series. They seem to so far.
Excellent stuff. No, yeah, it's a great series, and thank you very much for sharing that. And I think I've got Vic's popped up again saying read most of the Erica Swift series, which I absolutely love, and need to start this next series, the Ryan Chase one. So you've got a whole series to get through.
Yeah. Book 1's in Prime at the moment in the UK, so if anyone wants to grab it, if they're Prime subscribers.
Super stuff. Excellent. No excuses, folks. No excuses. I'll tell you what I'd like to do with just a couple of rounds left. Can I ask to find out your scores, please, folks, so we can focus ourselves going into the end, if you've got it to hand?
8, I've got.
8 for Matt.
6.5.
6.5 for Marissa. That's nice and close. That's good. We've got 2 rounds to go. Right. The next round is called March Madness. We were hoping to do this quiz last week, so we won't be halfway through March by the time we did, but unfortunately I had poorly children last week and that wasn't to be. So we've got 5 questions all around the theme of March. Nice and easy. So question number 1. Beware the Ides of March is a term born out of the assassination of whom? Bonus point for the date in March and another bonus point for the year. There you go. There's 3 points on offer there. So, beware the Ides of March. It's a term born out of the assassination of whom? Question number 2. In which eastern county would you find the market town of March? Question number 2 again. In which eastern county would you find the market town of March? Question number 3. First founded in 1939, March Madness is a knockout tournament played in which sport? I'll narrow it down, actually. Which US sport? There we go. First founded in 1939, March Madness is a knockout tournament played in which US sport? That narrows it down a little bit there for you. Question 4. What was the name of the fictional detective created by John Dixon Carr for a number of short stories in the 30s and 40s and played by Boris Karloff in the 1950s TV series of the same name? Well, of the character's name. Question 4 again. What was the name of the fictional detective created by John Dixon Carr for a number of short stories in the 30s and 40s and played by Boris Karloff in the 1950s TV series, titular TV series? No half points for just putting March. Sorry about that. And question 5. The John Williams composed track that commonly appears in Star Wars when Darth Vader is on screen and is often called the Darth Vader theme is actually called what? Question 5 again. The John Williams composed track that commonly appears in Star Wars when Darth Vader is on screen and is often called the Darth Vader theme is actually called what? I'll post those questions up in the chat. That is the March Madness round. Anyone with any answers? On a musical note, Matt, you've name dropped one of these people already. You were in a band. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
You nearly had a little stroke of luck, but it slipped through your fingers, I understand.
Yeah,
Tell us your story.
I think I was 18 at the time. I was in the sixth form at school, and I played in a band called Lear, because our lead singer, a girl in it, was studying English literature, and they were doing King Lear. So we decided our band was going to be called Lear, and we played David Bowie covers and Led Zeppelin and things like that. We did a lot of David Bowie numbers because he was very popular at the time. And our singer, Claire, she was a real David Bowie fan. She had spiky red hair. She could sing like him. But we were getting a bit limited, so we wanted to try other things. So we decided we were going to advertise within the school for another singer. And we only had one application, and we gave him a trial. And the trouble is he was overweight, couldn't sing very well, and he couldn't play an instrument. So we knocked him back and said, sorry, mate, but no go. Simon Le Bon.
So close. So close. I mean, do you ever sit there and like to think to yourself that was what spurred him on to hone his talent? That rejection was the one that really lit a fire under him?
No. No. Interestingly, the Le Bon family, this was Pinner in northwest London. The Bon family were quite well known in the area, and Simon's mother ran a music school and taught piano. So they were a very musical family anyway. So I think there was certain inevitability that Simon was going to head towards that direction. And of course, at the age of 16, as he would have been at the time, he was had puppy fat, and he hadn't sort of developed his own style. But he after grammar school, he went off to college. I think it was in Birmingham, Aston, might have been Aston, I'm not sure, where he grew into a man, didn't he? He grew into a man. He developed his own taste, his own style. Met up with some decent musicians, not like the group of us in our school, and he did very well. Although the irony of that situation is something that the rest of us, some of us who are still in touch, who were around at that time, we do smile about and say, "Oh God, if only."
What could have been? What could have been? And Marissa, you are described by your family as an emo. Is that right?
That's what my teenage kids say.
And what's your sort of musical taste then? What's
I still like all the stuff that I kind of grew up with, Nirvana and Soundgarden, those kinds of guys. But to be honest, I don't really listen to a huge amount of music anymore because I'm always either reading or writing. So it's,
You're not one of these writers then that has to have a playlist on while you're working away.
I'd find it really distracting. I kind of need to be in the zone. I mean, I'm quite good at tuning things out, but I wouldn't be able to tune music out.
I agree. If there's music going on, I'm fine with it. But if there's music with a voice, then that's very distracting. So something like classics, nice, gentle chamber music, that kind of thing, playing in the background is lovely. That can work. But as soon as there's a voice associated with the music, you can't focus. And you need, as Marissa says, you need to get into that zone when you're writing so that it flows.
Yeah.
There we go. So all that time I spent honing the playlist to work for my current work in progress that's been going for 3.5 years now and hasn't been finished. I'm beginning to understand why. If only I spoke to you guys.
Turn the music up. There you go, wrong.
I just think Scarlet and I'll be fine.
Music can be a help though, because I mean, when I was writing the first book and I was struggling for a title, I went out for a drive in the car and Wicked Game came on, and I thought, that's a bloody good title for a book.
And it actually is, isn't it? Yeah. It really is. It certainly works. Certainly fits the genre. Right. Shall we have a look at the answers for the March Madness round? Question number 1. The Ides of March. The assassination of whom?
Julius
Caesar.
Indeed. Did anyone know the date in March?
Is it the 15th?
It is the 15th, this coming Wednesday. And did you know the year?
AD 69.
No. 44 BC. No, nothing for us.
Was it? Did you have to get within 100 years and you got the point?
No. I know. I don't think I'm doing the math now because I've got a cat. No, it still wouldn't be within 100 years, would it?
No.
No, 100.
It shows how good my maths is.
That'd be 113. So I feel like deducting one on that, mate, but I'm not going to. I'm going to be nice. The county where you would find the market town of March out in the east of England is.
I think it's Cambridgeshire.
You would be correct in thinking that. Yes, Cambridgeshire. March Madness played every year in the US at college level. 68 teams competing. Kansas being the current champion. But what sport would it be in? It would be.
I guess baseball.
I guess baseball.
You'd have put a K in there. It would have been basketball. You'd have been all right. Yeah, basketball, unfortunately. Yes, the college championship, March Madness, which happens every year, 68 teams. Boris Karloff played the TV series, the lead character in the TV adaptation, and John Dixon Carr wrote the short stories. But what was the name of the detective? It was Colonel March.
Oh, I guessed at Marlowe, but no.
I never would have got that.
And finally, the John Williams composed track often accompanies Darth Vader on screen in Star Wars is
the Darth Vader thing.
It is that, but it's also the Imperial March.
The what?
The Imperial March.
Oh, no, I didn't get that.
Right, so we're moving into the last round now, which is our general knowledge round. I think my adding up says we're probably about 2.5 points between the two of you. Matt might have just.
Did I get a bonus for that 15th of March?
You did indeed, yes.
You did.
Right, this is our general knowledge round. Question number 1. Balloon frenzy hit the US last month after a reported Chinese balloon was shot down. But how many balloons were shot down, including that one, during the ensuing panic? One of the great ensuing panics of our time, I do believe. Question 1 again. Balloon frenzy hit the US last month after a reported Chinese balloon was shot down. But how many balloons in total, including that one, were shot down in the ensuing panic? Question 2. Nicola Sturgeon announced her resignation as the leader of the SNP and First Minister of Scotland on February the 15th. But in which year did she assume both roles? I'll give you a clue. It's either later or earlier than you think.
That's really helpful.
That's what I'm here for. Question number 2 again. Nicola Sturgeon announced her resignation as leader of the SNP and First Minister of Scotland on February the 15th. But in which year did she assume both of those roles? Question number 3. And you can tell this was written before this week, otherwise this would be about the Oscars. Which film won the BAFTA for Best Film? Donna echoes your sentiment there, Marissa, that really helped my little clue there for the year. Question 3. Which film won the BAFTA for Best Film? Question number 4. Which artist announced her pregnancy during her halftime show at this year's Super Bowl? Question 4 again. Which artist announced her pregnancy during her halftime show at this year's Super Bowl? And finally, who won the Carabao Cup this year, or the League Cup? Who won the Carabao Cup, the League Cup this year? Now, I always ask the authors who join me if they've ever thought about writing or dabbling in a different genre other than crime. So I'll start with you, Marissa. Is there anything you've ever thought about, any genres that you think, I'd like to get involved in that? I know you said you wrote quite a lot when you were at university studying zoology. Was it always crime that was the dream, or?
No, I started crime about 4 or 5 years. 5 years ago, actually, pretty much just coming on 5 years now. But I write as Marissa Farrar as well, but I tend to write dark romance, which is quite dark and twisty. So there's a lot of crime and psychological aspects that go into it.
And can you tell us a little bit about it, those sort of books? Are we talking series? Or are we talking standalone books?
Mostly series. So I've got quite a few series out in that name, which is why I can never remember any of my titles.
So when you talk about prolific and you're a fast writer, we talk about a series that you've done in crime in 5 books in 2 years, but that's got at the same time as you're writing in other genres as well at the same time. So
yeah, I tend to alternate. So I tend to write one as Marissa Farrar and then one as MK Farrar. And once I've done a crime, I'm kind of ready to move into a different genre. It stops me getting bored and it stops me getting feeling like I'm repeating myself, because like I said, I do write quite quickly and I do write quite a lot. So it's nice to have that change. Different it's a very different tone.
Absolutely.
In the different books. So, and I enjoy it all.
do you find that sometimes hard to switch between the two times? Or it sounds like it's what you need as a writer yourself, but do you ever find that there's the voice from the other genre sometimes creeps in, or are you aware of that when you're writing?
Yeah, I think I'm quite aware of it. So obviously I'm writing British crime, whereas I tend to set a lot of my dark romance stuff in America. So that's a very different voice. The only things I struggle with sometimes is if I've got a story that I really feel like I need to write, but I need to focus on one other thing before I can start that. That does sort of get a bit difficult. Then I have to sort of write notes to myself and try and push the other one to one side while I finish what I'm supposed to be doing. But no, I mean, it works well. I've been doing it for quite a lot of years now. So,
excellent stuff. And Matt, what about you? Is there any other genres that have ever tickled your fancy, or has it always been crime that's been?
Well, as a teenager, I was a real fan of science fiction, and I can well remember sort of walking home from the library with a Frank Herbert book or something like that, or Isaac Asimov, Dune, that kind of thing. Those kind of, I loved them. So I'd love to try writing science fiction. Not enough time, unfortunately. But what I've done is I've switched to writing non-fiction. It's not something I intended to do, but I got an approach a couple of years ago. I don't know whether you know, but back in 1984, I was present when a colleague of mine, WPC Yvonne Fletcher, was shot to death outside the Libyan People's Bureau in 1984. And the PC that's run the 40-year campaign to try and secure justice for it turned out to be a reader and a fan of my crime novels. And he approached me and said, how would I feel about writing the story of his hunt for the killer of Yvonne Fletcher? And I was, that's a bit of a scary prospect, a lot of responsibility, never written non-fiction before. But I decided to have a go. So I spent the last 2 years writing my first non-fiction book. That's called No Ordinary Day, which describes the day that Yvonne was shot and everything that happened subsequently. It comes out on June the 8th. Adlib are publishing it. And so I've discovered a real interest in political and Secret Service type thrillers, because this book, although it's non-fiction, what we discovered through researching at the National Archives and through Freedom of Information requests was an incredible plot, a story. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it's amazing what we discovered, what's going on in our name, or what was going on in our name, and might even still be going on to this day. And so I think my next book is probably going to be another non-fiction book. So although I haven't sort of gone away too far from the genre of crime, because crime sort of underpins this non-fiction, what I've discovered is it's fascinating researching and writing non-fiction almost as much as it's fascinating researching and writing and preparing to write a fiction novel. The only thing
seems like what you Crow 27 is sort of almost a bridging point between your fiction work with Wiki Game, etc., and then Crow 27 is an adaptation of true events into a fictional story, and now you've gone completely into.
I would say that the novel writing was great preparation because it taught you how to put a story together. And the only difference between the non-fiction and the fiction work is the story you're putting together is a real story. It's still an account, and you don't have to create these imaginary characters. The characters are there created for you, and the story is created for you. But you still have to weave the story together. You have to provide a narrative. You still have to provide the words, to pick the words, to put it together in a way which makes it reasonable. So a great development from the crime writing, and I'm looking forward to getting more stuck into it, to be honest with you.
Excellent stuff. No, and that's brilliant. That sort of led quite nicely onto what was going to be my next question, which was, what have you got planned next? But Matt, you've answered that nicely for me. Marissa, I'll ask you actually the same question. So obviously we know the last of the Ryan Chase series is out later this month, but beyond that, what's next for yourself?
I've literally just started writing a brand new series, which won't be British crime. So I'm hoping that all the crime readers don't come and track me down. This one is set in America because of the location being sort of integral to the story. So it's based on a place in America and California called Slab City, which is considered to be sort of the last place in America where you can exist without having to worry about any laws, which isn't strictly true, but that's how they see it. And the series will be based around all the different characters that are in this place, which, they tend to have lots of mental health issues, drug issues, homelessness, all those kinds of things. And it'll be based around a female detective who is in the nearest town to that. And her son has had mental health issues, drug issues, and lives in the commune. So I'm literally just starting that now, which I'm excited about. It's nice to write something different.
Excellent. And do you have a rough ETA on that, or is that something?
Not yet. Probably sort of towards the end of the year, I'd imagine.
Excellent stuff. I'm sure we'll all be keeping our eyes open for that and for your next one, Matt. So thank you very much, both. Thank you for sharing that. Should we quickly wrap up the answers for this last round? Yeah. Okay. Question number 1. Chinese balloon panic, which hit America. How many balloons in total were shot down? Does anyone have a guess?
I'm guessing it.
3. I said 3 as well.
It was 4 in total if you include the Chinese one. Yeah, the Chinese one, and 3 benign balloons. One that has now potentially been claimed by an Illinois-based hobbyist group. They have declared their balloon as being MIA. They're still trying to track down the other 2 where they might have come from, and obviously the Chinese one is being looked into. Question number 2, the year in which Nicola Sturgeon became the first minister and leader of the SNP was?
I said 2010, but
I said 2011.
2014, unfortunately. I told you it was later than you thought.
You said earlier.
I said both. Question number 3, what was the film that took away best film at the BAFTAs?
Everything, Everywhere, All the Time. I don't know.
You'd have been right if I'd have done the quiz about the Oscars, but unfortunately,
I would go for All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yes, Matt, that is correct. All Quiet on the Western Front.
I've seen that as well.
Yeah, I watched that at the weekend. Excellent film. Very true to the original. I've never read the book though, but I've seen the original film and that the latest version. It's quite stunning. The artist who announced her pregnancy during the halftime show at this year's Super Bowl was
Meghan Markle.
Rihanna, indeed, yes. And actually joined the halftime show. And of course, we all know famously that the game ended at halftime with the score as it was at halftime. And the second half of that game did not matter. And the team who were winning at halftime, the Philadelphia Eagles, clearly won the Super Bowl, and they didn't lose in the second half. And it didn't make me very sad for a good couple of weeks. Question number 5, more joyous. Who won the Carabao Cup this year?
Well, I would have liked to have been able to say it was Chelsea.
It was not Chelsea. No.
And it wasn't Chelsea. I would like to have been able to say it was Newcastle United, because Newcastle is a wonderful city that hosts a wonderful crime fiction festival in Newcastle was. So sorry, Jackie, you're listening. Can't say it was Newcastle because I reckon it was Man United.
It was indeed Manchester United, yes.
I wrote Manchester. Does that count? I don't actually know what the Carabao Cup is.
Yes, absolutely. Eric Ten Hag's mighty Manchester United. they cheered me up a little bit after the Eagles lost the Super Bowl. Manchester United won the Carabao Cup. So there we go. Yes, that's the end of the quiz. I'll give you a couple of moments to type your scores up. If you're playing along at home, please do share your scores in the chat. We always like to know how everyone's got on. I have asked you guys for your plans. We have posted your links to your websites into the group. So it's just a reminder for everyone to head over. Marissa's got a free book on her website that you can go and download. Matt's got Crow 27 out now, and a new book based around the story of Yvonne Fletcher coming out later this year. Sam Brownlee's got 16. Marissa, Matt, what were your scores?
13.
13 for Matt.
9.5.
And 9.5 for Marissa. Excellent stuff. Donna got 14. Brilliant stuff. The scores are coming in. Guys, thank you so much for playing along. 11.5 somebody's got there. Thank you so much for playing along. I hope you've enjoyed this evening. We've certainly enjoyed having you on.
Absolutely, yeah. I've no idea what to expect, Ben, but this has been absolutely great fun.
Oh, that's really lovely to say. Thank you, Matt. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. I'm glad you've had a good time with you. That's really nice to hear. Oh, made my day there. Thank you very much. Guys, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you both. It's been a really lovely evening. I'd like to thank you both for joining me. And I'd like to thank as well everyone who's been watching along at home. Thank you for popping up in the chat. And I shall say good night. Until next month, we will see you then. Until then, I've been Ben Bruce, and I will be next time as well. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.